ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकाकांत राधाकांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we welcome all the devotees to our weekly program. Because of certain situation, we are having it online. Otherwise, the best way to do this program is definitely in person. But if that is not possible, then we can do an online program. And let's see how long this lasts. Very soon, maybe we can shift to again the in-person program. So today is Srila Jeev Goswami Disappearance Day. On the altar, we have Shri Radha Gopinath, Shri Gaur Nitai, Shri Gopalji, and then we have 6 Goswamis. So out of the 6 Goswamis, the youngest one is called Srila Jeev Goswami. And we'll discuss a little bit about him. And let's see what we can learn from him. Actually, in the Gita, Krishna in the 5th chapter, he mentions a very nice shloka, which is very important for all of us. So he says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. In our country, we have one famous Pandit. And if you look at his life, then we may not see any relation with the shloka that Krishna has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita. What is the definition of Pandit? He says, this Pandit is Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. He has Vidya, he has knowledge, and he also has Vinay. Vinay means he has humility. And a Pandit is somebody who is Sampanna, who is completely endowed with these two qualities, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. And then what happens if you have Vidya also and you have Vinaya also? Then he says, Brahmane Gavi. Gavi means elephant. Hastini. Gavi means cow. Hastini means elephant. So this person who actually has knowledge, what does he do? He sees a very big scholarly person, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and somebody who eats dogs. So who eats dogs? Now all of you might feel, who can eat dogs? But in South Korea, North Korea, they eat dogs. So there were some people who were so much fond of flesh. They used to be attached to flesh, and if they cannot afford the normal, then they will just catch some dog on the street and have him for food. So that is called shwapak. Somebody who cooks dog. Shwa means dog. So Krishna is saying a wise person his lakshan, his symptom is he sees a Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and somebody who even eats dogs. Samadarshina. Samadarshina means he sees them all as being on the equal level. Now, one will say, how can they be on the equal level? They are equal level, not on their external body. They are equal because all these living entities, they are a spirit soul. In the body of a Brahman is also a spirit soul. In the body of a cow is also a spirit soul. In the body of an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, there is spirit soul. So, what is Krishna saying? Krishna is saying that real knowledge is not knowledge of the body. Real knowledge is not knowledge of this temporary world. Real knowledge is knowledge of the permanent spirit soul, the eternal spirit soul. And unless the knowledge that we have, it has some connection with who is who who am I actually? My body keeps on changing. When I look at the mirror, I look the same to myself. But sometimes my friend says, "Arey, tu to mota ho gaya." And I say, "Arey, मैं तो ऐसे ही हूँ." But he says, "नहीं नहीं नहीं, मोटा हो गया." Or sometimes when we go home, then the mother will always say, "तू तो दुबला हो गया." So your friend in the hostel says, "मोटा हो गया," and mother says, "दुबला हो गया." कैसे हो गया? There is always some change happening, but because the change is so slow and it is so gradual, that because we are watching ourselves every day, we may not be able to appreciate the change. We may not be able to appreciate that slow change, but somebody else who sees us after 1 week, 2 weeks, he can see the change. So Krishna is saying real knowledge is not the knowledge of the ever changing body. Real knowledge is knowledge of the spirit soul that stays the same. The identity, I, that always stays constant. Whether you are thin, you are fat, you are in India, you are in America, you are eating, you are not eating, whatever it is, that feeling of I always remains. So who am I? That we should find out. But another important thing that Krishna mentioned in this shloka is that a real scholar, a real Pandit, is not somebody who just has a title, so and so Pandit. But actually, what it means is he should have a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge should lead to some appreciable behavior. And also, he should have humility or vinay. These three things constitute the definition of a Pandit as given by Lord Krishna. Chanakya Pandit is also another one big scholar in our Vedic culture, and he also has given another definition of Pandit. What is Chanakya Pandit's definition of Pandit? He says, Matravat Paradareshu. Paradareshu means the wife of somebody else. Para means somebody else. So when you see the wife of somebody else as Matravat, like a mother, so other than one's own wife, anybody else's wife is a mother. Matravat Paradareshu. Paradravyeshu Loshtravat. Loshtra means a stone, and Paradravyeshu means things that belong to others. Somebody may have an expensive phone, somebody may have an expensive watch, somebody may have an expensive jeans, somebody may have expensive shoes. Yes. But if it does not belong to me, then I don't look at it with a feeling that I think I should have this. ये मेरा होना चाहिए. जरूरत नहीं है. Paradravyeshu loshtravat. And then he says, Atmavat sarvabhuteshu. Sarvabhuteshu means every single living entity. Can you see these living entities as yourself? What does it mean? It means if somebody takes a knife and touches it to my skin, it hurts. Dukhta hai. Similarly, when I take a knife and touch it to another living entity's skin, it must be hurting that living entity. When somebody slaps me, it hurts. Similarly, when I slap somebody, it must be hurting that person also. When somebody insults me, I don't feel like eating and I don't feel like sleeping. Similarly, when I insult somebody, it must be hurting that person also. So Atmavat Sarva Bhutesh. So Chanakya Pandit is saying, if you can see another's wife as your mother, if you can see every living entity as yourself, and if you can see anybody else's property as stones, unimportant, not useful, then you can be Yaha Pashyati Sa Panditaha. Chanakya Pandit says, then that person can be called a Pandit. So one definition is given by the Supreme Lord, and one definition is given by Chanakya. And in both these definitions, there is no connection of how many books you have to read, how many books you have to write, how many research papers you have to publish. In both these definitions, there is no such connection. In fact, in the 13th chapter, shloka number 8 to shloka number 12, 5 shlokas, Krishna speaks about 20 items of knowledge. And it begins with Amanitvam Adambhitvam Ahimsa Kshantirarjavam Acharyopasanam Shaucham Danam Atma Vinigraha. It begins with humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance. These are the things that Krishna mentions in 13.8. And in 13.12, after mentioning these 20 items, he says, Etad jnanam iti proktam ajnanam tato anyatha. He says, Etad jnanam iti proktam. Actually, I consider all this as knowledge. What? Humility, pridelessness, simplicity, tolerance. He says all this is knowledge, and then he says Ajnanam tato anyatha. And anything else other than this, I consider it as ignorance. So Krishna in that 5th chapter shloka does not talk about books, neither the books that you read, neither the books that you write. Chanakya Pandit is also not mentioning that. And 20 items of knowledge have nothing to do with some facts and figures. The 20 items of knowledge have to do with qualities of a person. What qualities does a person have? Are you humble? Are you tolerant? How can we understand that a person who has knowledge has to be tolerant? And if a person is not tolerant, he does not have knowledge. This is Krishna's words. Any ideas from any one of you? How do we understand that a genuinely scholar person has to have some tolerance? And if somebody does not have tolerance, he is not knowledgeable. Anybody wants to share any point? What could be the link between tolerance and knowledge?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, to hello, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
while learning, one should be tolerant. Sometimes learning process is difficult. So if one is not tolerant, then he may give up very early, and that way he cannot learn the knowledge.
Okay.
Means
Yeah. Good try. That is one way in which we can understand the connection between tolerance and knowledge. Yes, Pranay has raised his hand.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, in one of the Bhagavatam classes, I heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught how to preach. Means he was talking to a great Pandit, and he wanted to convert him, but wanted to teach him his philosophy. But he was adamant, and therefore he became his disciple first and learned from him what he wants to say, and then he said his thing. So basically, he was tolerant that he can tolerate someone else's knowledge also, and then can speak his well. That
Yes. Yes. This is also one understanding. Anybody else? Okay, so we may have knowledge of chemistry, we may have knowledge of physics, we may have knowledge of geography, we may have knowledge of history. Yes. What about knowledge of the nature of this world in which we are staying? History is regarding this world, but what has happened in the past. Geography is knowledge of this world, but only of the physical objects that we can see, the land, the soil, water, temperature, and all that. Biology is the study of this world, of the living beings. Chemistry is knowledge of this world only of the chemicals. But what is it about this world, that is fundamental quality of this world that we are staying in, one of the most fundamental qualities of this world. Think about it. You know it. You just have to scratch your brains like this and remember it. Okay. One of the most fundamental qualities of this world is, yes, Siddharth, you have raised your hand.
Prabhuji, the fundamental quality is to accept change because I guess change is permanent in this world.
Yeah. So one of the most fundamental qualities of this world is that this world and everything within this world and all the people in this world and all the situations in this world and the temperature of this world and the chemicals of this world and the bio means all the living entities of this world and all the geography of this world is all temporary. Living beings are temporary, the trees are temporary, the birds and the animals are temporary, the mountains are temporary, the rivers are temporary. Saraswati river no longer flows. So lake is now drying up and icebergs are melting. So everything is temporary if you really have knowledge. You don't just have knowledge about physics, chemistry, biology, but you also have knowledge about the fundamental quality of this world, which is temporary. So if everything is temporary, why am I getting so heated about? मैं जो बात बात पे इतना गर्म हो जाता हूँ, बात बात पे इतना गुस्सा करता हूँ, क्या जरूरत है? क्योंकि ये परिस्थिति बदलने वाली है. Some point in our life for which we are so hot, something, some decision, some words spoken, we are getting so angry, but that situation is temporary. That person is also temporary. So think about it. If you really understand that everything in this world is temporary, will it not lead to increased tolerance? Something is not going as per your wishes and it hurts a lot, but this is temporary. So you tolerate it. Now it is cold season. So getting up early in the morning is a big tapasya, but you tolerate it. And in the hot season, I know many of us don't get sleep at night because it is so hot and we are just rolling in our bed. What can you do? You just tolerate it. So all the inconveniences in our life, when we see that everything in this world is temporary, then it becomes so easy to tolerate. So that's the connection between tolerance and knowledge. In this way, actually, every single quality that Krishna mentions in 13.8 to 13.12, which is actually a quality, but Krishna calls it as an item of knowledge. It means every knowledgeable person, if you really feel he's knowledgeable, then he has to be tolerant. Every knowledgeable person, if you really know that he's knowledgeable, then he has to be non-violent. What could be the connection between non-violence and knowledge? Why should a knowledgeable person be non-violent? Yes, anybody wants to speak? Some people have raised their hands. Yes, Umesh, you have raised your hand.
Prabhuji, I wanted to talk about tolerance.
Yeah. Yes.
प्रभु जी, हरे
हाँ जी,
कृष्ण।
बोलिए बोलिए।
I read His Holiness Radhanath Swami's quotes. It says that tolerance, appreciation, uh, and these are the steps to maintain love with somebody. So we can achieve something by our hard work, but in order to maintain something in this world for a long time, we require these 20 qualities that you mentioned.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so what could be the connection between knowledge and non-violence? If any one of you, yes, Swaroop, you raise your hand.
Prabhuji, to do violence is basically to destroy that person. So someone who is knowledgeable, he knows that soul is indestructible. So there is
Perfect.
no point in using violence against that person.
Yes. So if you're really knowledgeable, then you just don't have knowledge about the body, the hands, the legs, and all that, but you also have knowledge about the living entity inside. And you know, actually, this living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. Just like I am a part and parcel of God, this hen is also a part and parcel of Krishna. The goat is also a part and parcel of Krishna. Every single living entity, Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya Aham Bija Pradapita, that all the living entities, the Father is Krishna. So if I love the Father and if I'm hurting the child, will it work? I'm praising the Father, but I'm slighting the throat of the child. Will the Father love me? So if you have this knowledge, then you understand, प्रभु जी सही में अगर मेरे पास knowledge है तो मैं non violence होना चाहिए, violence कैसे करूं मैं? Who can be violent? Who does not accept that every single person around me is a child of God? Only the person who feels only I am a child of God, he's not a child of God. He's not a child of God. That's why I can hurt them, I can talk in a loud voice with them, and I can suppress them. So it's very interesting that Krishna said, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. Krishna said that you have to see every living entity is based on the spirit soul inside. And the equality of all spirit souls is that they are all children of God. And even Chanakya Pandit said, Atmavat Sarva Bhuteshu, to see every living entity as yourself. And again, Krishna is saying in 13.8 to 13.12 that the 20 items of knowledge are all related to qualities. It means, according to Vedic culture, there is a strong connection between knowledge and your behavior. If our behavior is that of an animal and we may be having a PhD certificate in our hands, Vedic culture does not accept that you are a knowledgeable person. If you are barking like a dog and if you are hunting like a wolf, that PhD certificate in our hands has no value. Finally, knowledge should lead to some transformation of the heart. Knowledge should lead to some impact on the character of the person. So it's very interesting that even today, when sometimes there are PhD exams. So here is a person who has done his graduation, who has done his post graduation, and now he is attempting for a doctorate. So very respected person, is it not? But there have to be invigilators for this exam. For PG entrance exam, for PG passing exam, why is there a need of invigilator? Because everyone knows ये बहुत पढ़ा लिखा लड़का है, ग्रेजुएशन किया है, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कर रहा है, लेकिन इसकी नीयत पे हमको भरोसा नहीं है प्रभु जी। है तो बहुत पढ़ा लिखा, लेकिन फिर भी चीटिंग करता है, झूठ बोलता है। It means modern education has successfully broken the connection between knowledge and character. तुम्हारे पास 20 डिग्रियां होंगी, लेकिन एक भी सद्गुण नहीं हो सकता है। और ऐसा हो सकता है कि एक अनपढ़ गवार व्यक्ति है, अंगूठा छाप व्यक्ति है, लेकिन उसके पास सद्गुण है. He actually has some good qualities. So what does it take to give charity? We feel, Prabhuji, it needs money to give in charity. No, Prabhu, it does not require money to give charity. It requires a heart. हृदय में अगर भावना है देने की, वो 5 रुपए का बिस्किट का पैकेट आता है, उसमें से एक बिस्किट आप दे दोगे, चल तू खा ले. लेकिन हमारा लंच क्या है? Our lunch is not dal rice. Our lunch is not सब्जी रोटी. Our lunch, दोपहर का भोजन क्या है? एक बिस्किट का पैकेट. और बिस्किट का पैकेट खाने वाला गरीब आदमी 5 रुपए में अपना लंच कर रहा है, लेकिन वो भी एक बिस्किट बाजू वाले दोस्त को दे सकता है. Or we could be having 500 rupees वाला lunch. We may be having butter roti, palak paneer and everything, but we will waste half of it in our plate. प्लेट में आधा छोड़ देंगे, उसको बेसिन में डाल देंगे, लेकिन किसी को 1 रुपए का हम डोनेशन नहीं देंगे. It means charity is not based on the resources that you have in your wallet. Charity is based on the broad-mindedness that you have in your heart. And that's why modern world is so violent that it has disconnected knowledge from the purpose of knowledge. The purpose of knowledge is that there has to be some change in the character. So we are going to discuss about one of the greatest scholars, Srila Jeev Goswami. Bhagavatam has 18,000 shlokas. Ramayana has 22,000 shlokas. These are the biggest books. But bigger than these two books is Mahabharata. And Mahabharata has 1 lakh shlokas. So 1 lakh shlokas is too much. But Srila Jeev Goswami has written in his own books 4 lakh shlokas. So you can just imagine, he's such a big scholar. And all these 4 lakh shlokas are his original composition, his own expertise, his own scholarship. But before he became such a big scholar, we need to understand what is his history. So many of us might know about Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jeev Goswami. Their names before were Amar and Santosh. And they had a brother whose name was Vallabh. And Amar and Santosh, they were very intelligent. They were put into government service by Nawab Hussain Shah, who was the king of Bengal at that time. So because he was a Muslim person, he wanted to enjoy this world. He wanted to rule. Sometimes he wanted to destroy temples. He wanted to kill Brahmanas. He wanted to kill cows. But for all this, he did not want the stress of ruling his kingdom. So he forced Amar and Santosh and told them, if you don't serve me in my government, then I will burn these villages. So now Amar and Santosh, they themselves are Vaishnavas, but they have to support a king, because if they don't support the king, then so many villages will be burnt. So to protect the people of these villages, they agreed to serve the king Nawab Hussain Shah, and then he could do whatever he wanted to do. But at one point of time, they heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is on his way from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan. And because they're so pure, and because they come from a Vaishnava background, they also understood that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually Radha and Krishna combined. They were also great scholars of the scriptures. So they must have read the Bhagavatam. And in the Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that in the Kali Yuga, the avatar is Krishna Varnam, Tvisha Krishnam, Sango Pangastra Parshadam, Yagyai Sankirtanai Prayer Yajanti Sumedhasa. That the incarnation is Krishna Varnam. Krishna Varnam means he always keeps on speaking Krishna, 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 Krishna. Tvisha Akrishnam. Tvisha means skin. Akrishnam. Akrishnam means opposite of Krishnam. Krishna is black. Opposite of Krishna is golden or white. So the incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga, he constantly keeps on repeating the words Krishna, 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 Krishna. And his color of the skin is opposite of black. So he is golden, he is shining. Sango Pangastra Parshadam. What are his weapons? Other incarnations, they carry weapons of sword, bow and arrow, Sudarshan Chakra. What is the weapon of this incarnation of Kali Yuga? It is his associates, his devotees. This incarnation in Kali Yuga does not carry any weapons. This incarnation in Kali Yuga just has his associates. He's always surrounded by his associates. Yagyai Sankirtanai Prayer, and is always engaged in Sankirtan Yagya. He's always having congregational chanting of the holy names. Yajantihi Sumedhasa. And this incarnation is worshipped by intelligent people. Sumedhasa. So they could understand. This sannyasi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is not actually a sannyasi. He's not a Jiva Tattva. He's actually an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So they were in Ram Keli, and they heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also come to Ram Keli along with many, many followers. So when this news went to Nawab Hussain Shah, he was told by some of his ministers, one Hindu saint has come and he is being followed by millions and millions of people, and they, whenever he chants, they are all chanting and they are all jumping and they're completely influenced by this sannyasi. So the minister was saying, actually, he has so much influence on people. He's almost God only. And Nawab Hussain Shah, he immediately called Amar and Santosh and asked, what do you feel about this Hindu saint who has come? He keeps chanting and he keeps dancing, and people seem to follow him. What is your opinion? And Rup and Sanatan, instead of speaking the truth, they said, actually, don't worry about him. Don't even think about him. He's an ordinary person. Itna bhi koi bada aadmi nahi hai. Why? Because they knew if the king hears that he is a greatly influential person, then it is possible that the king will harm him. And they wanted to distract the king from meeting Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they said, don't worry about him. He's just an ordinary saint. And in the middle of the night, Rup and Sanatan, they went to meet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they took their brother Vallabh with them. And Vallabh had a son. Vallabh was a Grihastha. Vallabh had a son whose name was Jiva. So in the middle of the night, because nobody should know that the ministers of the king went and met this Hindu saint. Otherwise, there will be problems for these ministers and there will be problems for this Hindu saint also. So Rupa and Sanatan, they fell down at the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were not even willing to get up. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu picks them up, embraces them, and this whole exchange is seen by little Jiva. Jiva at that time must be 3 years or 4 years in age. And from a distance, he is watching how his uncles, Amar and Santosh, they are falling on the ground. And they are not even willing to stand up in the presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this made a strong impact on Jiva. So after they went, Jiva always would think about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityanand Prabhu. And Jiva, in these times, he was developing a lot of attraction for Sri Krishna Balaram, because he had seen Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityanand Prabhu, who are not different from Krishna and Balaram. It is these two personalities that were always there in the minds of Srila Jeev. So in his childhood days, while playing with his friends, he would make dolls of Krishna and Balaram, and he will put some flower garlands around them. He will worship them. He will offer his namaskars to them. And sometimes he will offer some food items also to Krishna Balaram. In this way, many days went by. Finally, at one point of time, Rup and Vallabh, they went to Puri, and from Puri there they went to they went to Vrindavan, and from Vrindavan they were on their way to Puri. So on the way to Puri, actually Vallabh left this world. When this news came to Jiva that his father has left this world, actually he was devastated. He was thinking, oh, what will I do now? My father has left this world. He had a lot of love for his father. Now we may also have a lot of love for our father, but our love for the father is based on the bodily relationship that my father gave me birth, and that's why I love him. But Jiva, his love for his father was not based on the fact that he was his father. His love for his father was based on the fact that his father was a great Vaishnava. Like Kunti Devi has a lot of love for the Pandavas. But Kunti Devi's love for the Pandavas is not just because they are her sons, because they are great devotees of Lord Krishna. So in this way, Jiva, he lost his affectionate father, but he has his uncles. At one point of time, when Jiva grew up, he became a very nice, handsome man, and he was thinking, I want to tour all the different places in Navadvip where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played his pastimes. And Srila Jiva Goswami is at that time only Jiva. He went to Navadvip. There he met Sri Nityanand Prabhu, and he met Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur and Nityanand Prabhu, they gave a tour of Navadvip to Srila Jiva Goswami. They showed him all the places where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a child would play. They showed him all the places where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed Sankirtan. They showed him all the places where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed many miracles during congregational chanting of the holy names. So in this way, after receiving a tour of the different holy places, then he felt, now I need to go to Vrindavan and I need to take shelter of my two uncles, Roop and Sanatan. But at that time, Sri Nityanand Prabhu told him, this is not the right time to go to Vrindavan. I want you to go to Banaras. And in Banaras at that time, there was a great scholar called Madhusudan Vachaspati. So this Madhusudan Vachaspati was actually a disciple of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. Who is Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya? Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was the Rajamantri, was the royal advisor to King Prataprudra in Puri. And Pranay, in today's session, he mentioned how actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to teach his philosophy to a great scholar, but for 7 days, he did not argue with that great scholar. He heard from that great scholar. So who's that great scholar? Actually, that great scholar is Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. So this Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he was such an intelligent person. He would just hear some philosophy and he would master that philosophy. So when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached Puri for the first time, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya took him to his home and thought that here is a 24-year-old sannyasi. And this 24-year-old sannyasi does not know much about sannyas, does not know much about Vedanta. Let me teach him. So with that pride, with that arrogance, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya for 7 days continuously spoke on Vedanta to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thinking that he is only a 24-year-old sannyasi. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just patiently heard from him without any response. And at the end, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya asked him, did you understand anything? And at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, actually, your explanations of the Vedanta are like the clouds that block the sun. You don't have to explain the Vedanta because Vedanta is like the sun. It is self-illuminatory. And Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was shocked. Nobody had ever spoken to him like this. And then Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya said, what do you mean? You explain to me. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained and Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was floored. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya said, बाप रे, ये तो इतना छोटा सा दिखता है, लेकिन इसको सब मालूम है. And then Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya became his disciple. So that Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, after he became a disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya had his own disciple called Madhusudan Vachaspati. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he surrendered to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accepted his philosophy, he taught that philosophy to Madhusudan Vachaspati. And this Madhusudan Vachaspati later on became a great scholar in Varanasi. So Sri Nityanand Prabhu, he is telling Jiva, before you meet your uncles, Rupa and Sanatan in Vrindavan, I want you to go to Banaras and I want you to become a student of Madhusudan Vachaspati. And you should understand the Vedanta philosophy from him. You should understand all the Vedas, what are the different concepts of the Vedas, how to present the different concepts of the Vedas properly, systematically, all that you learn. And after that, you go to meet Rupa and Sanatan. And Jeev Goswami, he actually did that. He went to Banaras, he studied under Madhusudan Vachaspati, he learned all the things of Vedic literature. And that's how he became a great scholar. And after becoming a great scholar, on the orders of Sri Nityanand Prabhu, he reached Vrindavan. When he reached Vrindavan, Rup Goswami was there, Sanatan Goswami was there, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was there, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was there, Bhugarbha Goswami was there, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So all these devotees were staying in Vrindavan. And they welcomed Jiva because he was the nephew of Rupa and Sanatan. And of all the Goswamis, the eldest one was Srila Sanatan Goswami. So Jiva Goswami begged to Sanatan Goswami that please accept me as your disciple, please accept me as your student. But that's how you deal, that you approach the senior most person, you don't approach the junior most person. So he approached Sanatan Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami, in his humility, he said, you are asking for instructions from me, you want to become my disciple, but I think you should take instruction from Rupa, from Rupa Goswami. And he handed over Jiva under the care of Srila Rupa Goswami. So now here is the biggest scholar of Varanasi. He is his own nephew. He has studied under Madhusudan Vachaspati, who is a student of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is a disciple of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is the service that Rupa Goswami gave to Jiva in Vrindavan? Actually, Srila Rupa Goswami was worshipping Shri Radha Govinda in Vrindavan. And this Radha Govinda, when you do some arti, then the lamp is there, the arti plate is there, somebody needs to wash it. When there is a lot of bhoga that is cooked for Shri Radha Govinda, then somebody needs to wash those utensils also. In those days, Rup Goswami was a great writer. So how would he write? He does not have a pen and a paper, or he does not have any electronic medium. How does he write? Actually, the leaves of a certain tree, they are dried in the sun and they become like paper. And on that paper, you take some sharp object like the nib, but the nib is rounded off. You take a sharp object and you carve letters on that hard leaf. And then you take blue powder, and that blue powder you just smudge over that leaf. You spread it over the leaf. So wherever there is carving done, wherever there is a depression on the leaf, there that powder goes and sits. And that is how you write. And after the powder goes and sits in the depression, then you just wipe off that entire leaf, and all the extra powder is wiped off, and the leaves are ready and the books are ready. So for us today to write books is very easy. We can just type on the screen, or we can write with a pen. And the ink is also available in the market. And the pen is also available in the market. But in those days, the pen has to be prepared. How? You take a wooden stick and you make it sharp. And you also prepare the leaves of that plant. You cut the leaves of the plant, you put it for drying, and after it becomes sufficiently dry, then you bring it. If it is too brittle, बहुत अगर नाजुक है, उसके ऊपर जब carving करेंगे तो पूरा leaf टूट जाएगा. And if it is wet, if it is not yet completely dark, then you cannot write it because the impressions will not be made. And all this is required to write one page. And also you have to make that dark blue colored ink. Ink is basically some substance you burn. राख बनती है ना, so एक पत्ते की राख बनाते थे, और वो जो राख है वो काली होती थी, and that is basically the ink. So Jiva, who is a big scholar, was given these services by Rupa Goswami. Why is it important to give these kind of services like washing pots, washing utensils in the kitchen, or making the dried leaves, or making the ink? Why are these kind of services given to Jiva by Srila Rupa Goswami? Because he wants to see all the knowledge that Jiva has from his teachings, from his learnings in Varanasi. Has it produced any humility in him? Or has he become a proud scholar? And what is the use of becoming a proud scholar? Because Krishna does not like pride. So even if non-Vaishnavas are proud, it does not matter much. But especially if Vaishnavas become proud, then Krishna does not like it, and such a Vaishnava is humiliated. So in this way, Srila Jiva was given these kind of services. Now at this time, one very interesting story happened. There was one big Digvijay Pandit. Digvijay Pandit means he's somebody who has become a winner in debates when he's touring all over India. So there are these big scholars who will go all over India from one city to another city, and they will check out who's the biggest scholar in this city. Like today, there are IPL matches, Kolkata versus Bombay. Similarly, 500 years back, the biggest sport was not physical sports. The biggest sport was not cricket, football, etc., etc. The biggest sport 500 years back was intellectual sports. How intelligent you are, how you can debate, how you can argue, and like that. So there were these big time scholars who would move from one city to another city and argue, have a debate. And somebody who wins, he has something called as a Vijay Patra. That Vijay Patra has all the signatures of the people who were defeated in a debate, and it says, sorry, but I have been defeated in a debate by this person. So people would carry this Vijay Patra, just like we have these medals. Today, you go to somebody's home, if the child is a scholar, if the child is an intelligent person, then he has many medals or trophies. And those medals or trophies are displayed. Similarly, in those days, there would be some Vijay Patra. So this big Digvijay Pandit, his name was Roop Narayan. So this Roop Narayan, he was traveling all over India and he came to Vrindavan. And he asked people, who are the biggest scholars here? So the people said, Roop Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they are the biggest scholars. So he came to these two brothers and said, I am a big Digvijay Pandit. You are the greatest Pandits of Vrindavan. So I want to have a debate with you. And Roop and Sanatan, what did they do? Roop and Sanatan said, actually, we are not scholars. Actually, we don't know much. And we don't want to have a debate with you because it is of no use. So this Digvijay Pandit said, that's okay. No problem. But then you have to sign my Vijay Patra. So they say, that's not a problem because anyways, we are fools. So they signed on the Vijay Patra of Roop Narayan that Roop Narayan is very intelligent and we are not as intelligent like him. And then this Roop Narayan was moving around in Vrindavan telling people, देखो, आपके गुरु सनातन गोस्वामी और रूप गोस्वामी हैं, and I have defeated them in a debate. This news went to their disciple Jiva. And Jiva said, what nonsense. This foolish mosquito, he feels that he has defeated Rup Goswami. Do you know who is Rup Goswami? Rup Goswami knows all the Vedic literature, everything. Nana Shastra Vichari Naika Nipuno. How did Rup Goswami write the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? It took him 16 years. 16 years Rup Goswami was studying Ramayana, was studying the Bhagavatam, was studying the Mahabharata, was studying all the Vedic literature, he was studying all the Upanishads. And 16 years of study has resulted in one book called Nectar of Devotion. How much scholarship is there? How much research he has done? How could he collect different things from different books and put it all together? And this mosquito is thinking that he has defeated Rup Goswami. So he said, I want to have a debate with you. And Rup Narayan was already intoxicated because he had Vijay Patra and he had the signature of Rup and Sanatan Goswami. And after 7 days of debate, 7 days, Rup Narayan is not agreeing. And finally, Jeev Goswami just smashed him. And everyone said Jeev Goswami has won. And Jeev Goswami was so happy. So why did Jeev Goswami argue with Rup Narayan? It was not for his personal reputation. Jeev Goswami is a practitioner of the principle Trinad api sunichena taror iva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Actually, Jeev Goswami wants to be very humble. Jeev Goswami wants to be in the background, and that's why, even though he was one of the biggest scholars of Varanasi, in Vrindavan, he is washing utensils in the kitchen. One time, one big Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya. Anybody knows who is Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya? What is his contribution to India?
Hindi literature.
So in Banaras, there is Banaras Hindu University, BHU. And today, it's a very big university. That's Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya started the Banaras Hindu University. So this Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, he came to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he said, I heard that you are a big scholar. I have some question. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati told him, yes, but I'm little busy right now. So he is my assistant. And he said, can you go and help my assistant for half an hour? And after that, I will talk to you. And his assistant did not know that this is Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, the founder of Banaras Hindu University. So he took Madan Mohan Malviya to the kitchen and told him, can you help me wash these pots? And Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, the big scholar, he washed the pots in the kitchen of the Gaudiya Math, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was staying. And after half an hour, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, when he came to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he asked him, yes, so what was your question? And Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya said, actually, I no longer have that question. My question was answered. So when he was washing the pots, actually, because he's a humble person, he's a very big scholar. But when some sadhu gave him that seva of washing the pots, he did not mind it. And because of his humility, the Paramatma in the heart revealed to him that answer. So we feel many of the answers of our questions will come from the books. Many of the answers to some of our questions will come from some personality. But if you are genuinely humble, if you are sincere, then Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Not all answers are given by the books. Not all answers are given by some persons. Some answers are revealed in the heart. And that's why Krishna in 10.11, he also says this, Tesham eva anukampartham aham agyanajam tamaha nashayami atma bhavastho jnana deepena bhasvata. Krishna says, to those people who are very sincere, in their heart there is darkness born of ignorance. But I, who am seated in their heart, I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And that's why Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, we were discussing about him. Basically, he's Angutha Chap. He cannot even sign, but he was one of the greatest scholars of Vaishnavism. But how is it possible? He never read any books. He cannot even sign his own name. But because he's a sincere devotee, Krishna reveals the right answers in his heart. And that's why Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, one of the greatest scholars, took initiation from Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, because he was humble, he received knowledge in the heart from Krishna. And by the time he met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, there was no need to ask that question. Similarly, Srila Jeev Goswami, although he's a big scholar from Banaras, he has come to Vrindavan and in a very menial way, in a very humble way, he's doing his seva. That proves that he is humble. So then why did he argue with Rup Narayan? He did not argue with Rup Narayan to establish his own reputation. This foolish person was thinking that Rup and Sanatan Goswami have been defeated by him. To maintain the reputation of Rup and Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami fought with him in debate. And that's why he totally followed the principle of Trinadapi Sunichena Taro Riva Sahishuna, although he argued with him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the original person who gave us this mood. We should be more humbler than the straw on the street. We should be more tolerant than the tree. We should be eager to give all respects to others and expect none in return. In this state of consciousness, we can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So who gave us this understanding? This understanding was given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just like Pranay mentioned, when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is actually a Grihastha, he is instructing a sannyasi. How can a Grihastha instruct a sannyasi? But he is doing it. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in that situation, he followed the principle. Trinadapi Sunichena. Who am I? I'm an ordinary person. I may be sannyasi, but he is a great scholar. Let him teach me. So he accepted all that. But when Sri Nityanand Prabhu was hurt by Jagai and Madhai, when Jagai and Madhai brought blood from Nityanand Prabhu, what did that same Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? That same Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who taught about humility, he took out his chakra and he told Jagai and Madhai, I'm going to chop off your heads. How can the person who's always talking about humility bring out Sudarshan Chakra? That humility is for yourself. When somebody is not behaving with you properly, that is the time to show humility. But when somebody is insulting Krishna, when somebody is insulting another devotee, that is not the time to show humility. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is somebody who's talking about Trinadapi Sunichena, but when his dear devotee Sri Nityanand Prabhu was insulted, when his dear devotee Sri Nityanand Prabhu was harmed, then that same Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took out his chakra and he was ready to chop off their heads. So this is the secret of Trinadapi Sunichena. And when we don't understand this secret properly, then we misuse it, that when somebody talks to us improperly, we speak in a harsh way. But in front of our eyes, when some devotee is insulted, then we keep quiet and say, nahi, nahi, mere ko to namra banna hai karke. So Jiva Goswami is teaching us what is the meaning of Trinadapi Sunichena. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us what is the meaning of Trinadapi Sunichena. So in this way, finally, Srila Jiva Goswami is very happy that he has defeated Rup Narayan. पीछे जो दो लोग बैठे हैं, सौरभ और उसके बाजू में जो बैठे हैं, उनको सुनाई दे रहा है क्या लेक्चर? और the volume is very low.
Prabhuji, we are on with a earphone.
स्ट्रेंजर नहीं लगाया आपने आज?
No, Prabhuji.
अच्छा. So who took this decision of not putting the stranger on?
Prabhu, I only told.
अच्छा, हमेशा हर प्रोग्राम में तो हम लोग लगाते हैं ना स्ट्रेंजर, नहीं?
Yes, Prabhu.
So क्या होता है ना? Some people, they are feeling very sleepy, they are feeling very drowsy, and the whole point of the program is that at least the sound should be proper, है ना? At least if people hear properly, then there is a chance that they may not feel sleepy. So next time maybe आप लोग arrange कर सकते हैं that if you put on a stranger, then just like we have for our every weekly program, and we can put that all those wires and cables are all there in our base. So anyways, Srila Jiva Goswami, he has defeated Rup Narayan and he's very happy that he has saved the reputation of Srila Rup and Sanatan Goswami. But when he goes to Rup Goswami and he mentions, देखो उस बेवकूफ रूप नारायण को मैंने हरा दिया. Rup Goswami is very angry with Jiva Goswami. Rup Goswami tells him, you have so much time that in Vrindavan, instead of serving Shri Radha Govinda, you went and argued with that scholar. That scholar is so proud, that scholar feels that he knows everything. What do you feel? Is the purpose of staying in Vrindavan? Is the purpose of staying in Vrindavan argument? The purpose of staying in Vrindavan is to serve Shri Shri Radha Krishna. But you have lot of tendency to fight. You have lot of tendency to argue. So you don't have a place in Vrindavan. You have to immediately leave Vrindavan. And Srila Jiva Goswami did not argue with his guru. He did not say, I didn't do this for myself. I did this for you. Your reputation was getting spoiled. And people were thinking that this fool has defeated you. That's why I fought in debate. No, Jiva Goswami did not say anything. He took it as a lesson in humility. And he left Vrindavan and went to Mathura. In Mathura, on the banks of Yamuna, there were some crocodile holes. The crocodiles in the river, when they come out, they make some hole in the land and they stay there. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he went in one of these holes and he was just lying there and he was crying. Oh, where did I go wrong? I wanted to protect the reputation of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami because they are such great pure devotees. And this mundane scholar, this proud scholar, he does not know Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. He does not know the 20 items of knowledge in the Gita. And he was singing that he has conquered over Rupa and Sanatan. And that's why I fought with him, but I was misunderstood and now I am here. So Jiva, actually, he did not even go for Bhiksha. He was just lying there and he was crying and chanting and remembering the Lord and praying to the Lord. He was thinking maybe he did something wrong and he has disturbed. He has troubled his guru, Srila Rupa Goswami. And because of his crying and loud chanting, some nearby villagers, they heard it. And they gave him some atta. They gave him some wheat flour. And taking that atta, he took some Yamuna water, he mixed it, and that uncooked atta he would eat. And because of that, actually, he developed some ulcers in his stomach also. His health went down. He's not eating properly. He's not sleeping properly. He's not even sitting properly because that small hole was actually a hole for the crocodile. It was not meant for human beings. And he was spending many months like this. And Sanatan Goswami and Rup Goswami, they are in Vrindavan. And Sanatan Goswami, he was thinking, Jeev, he left Vrindavan, but where did he go? We don't know where he went. And Sanatan Goswami, he would travel from one village to another. He is actually considered to be the guru of all the Vrajavasis. He will travel from one village to another. He will go to somebody's home and say, तो कैसे चल रहा है? आपकी बेटी की शादी होने वाली थी. आपकी बेटी की शादी हो गई क्या? इस बार बरसात में खेत कैसे आए? He will seemingly talk about ordinary things. Are the crops okay? Was the rainfall okay? Is your daughter married? Sometimes the husband and wife in a family would have some fight. And the husband and wife, because they would consider Srila Sanatan Goswami to be their guru, they will come to him and say, she is saying like this. And she will say, he's saying like this, what to do? And Sanatan Goswami in a very intelligent way would sort out the dispute between the husband and wife. And in this way, Sanatan Goswami was the guru of all the Brajavasis. So when the Brajavasis saw that there is some sadhu in this crocodile hole near the Yamuna river in Mathura, and he is just constantly chanting the holy names, then they thought, maybe we should report this to Sanatan Goswami. And one time when Sanatan Goswami came nearby, they reported. And Sanatan Goswami very quickly understood who this was. Already he was thinking, where is Jeev? And now he understood that this must be Jeev. So Sanatan Goswami went to that crocodile hole and Jiva was inside and he was not even able to come out. When Sanatan called for him, Jiva was so weak. Jiva did not have any energy. He was so sick actually. He could not even come out. And Sanatan Goswami literally had to crawl inside that crocodile hole and bring out Jiva Goswami. And then he took Jiva Goswami to Vrindavan. And he told Srila Rupa Goswami, what are the basic principles of Lord Chaitanya's teachings? And Rupa Goswami could not understand. Suddenly one day, why Sanatan Goswami is coming to him and asking him such a basic question, that what are the basic principles of Lord Chaitanya's teaching? And the three basic principles of Lord Chaitanya's teaching is Nam Seva. Nam Seva means you chant the holy names and you do Vaishnav Seva. You serve the Vaishnavas who are also chanting the holy names. They are also servants of the holy name. And the third principle is Jive Doya. Jiva means the living entities, Daya. So you serve the holy name, you serve the Vaishnavas, Name Ruchi. You develop taste in chanting the holy names, you do Vaishnav Seva, and you do Jiva Daya. Jiva Daya means ordinary living entities who are not Vaishnavas, you should be kind towards them. So Sanatan Goswami told Rup Goswami, these are the three basic principles of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Are you following all three? Rup Goswami was thinking, why is he asking like this? Yes, I am chanting the holy names, I am serving the Vaishnavas. And then Rup Goswami says, I think you are not doing Jeev Daya. So Jeev Daya, the word Jeev Daya has two meanings. One is that are you showing mercy to the ordinary living entities, Jiva? And the second meaning is also specifically, are you showing mercy to Srila Jeev Goswami? So Rup Goswami understood that maybe Srila Sanatan Goswami is pointing out to that point. And by that time, Sanatan Goswami had brought Jiva from Mathura. And he was already very thin. He was already very emaciated, very weak. So now, the same Rup Goswami who had told his disciple that you don't have a space in Vrindavan, now he fed and nursed and gave all kinds of medicines to his own disciple Jeev Goswami. He did not feel, अरे ये तो क्या मेरा शिष्य है, मेरे शिष्य की सेवा थोड़ी करते हैं. No, Rup Goswami, because he accepted responsibility for this condition of Jeev Goswami, he personally nourished Jeev Goswami with his own hands by feeding him Mahaprasad, by giving him medicines. And in 6 months, again, Srila Jeev Goswami was healthy. This time, Srila Rup Goswami was very happy with Jeev Goswami because of his menial service attitude and his kind of submission and obedience, that he did not argue with Rup Goswami when he told him to go outside Vrindavan. So, Srila Rup Goswami, with his own hands, he carved the deities of Shri Radha Damodar. And that Radha Damodar deities he gifted to his disciple Srila Jeev Goswami. And Jeev Goswami from that day onwards started worshipping Shri Radha Damodar. One day when Jeev Goswami was doing some menial service for Shri Radha Govinda, he was making some paper for Srila Rup Goswami, he was making some ink for Rup Goswami. He heard a very beautiful flute and he followed in the direction of the flute and he went into the room inside, and to his utter surprise, he saw Shri Radha Govinda, their servant, Shri Rup Goswami, had gifted him Shri Radha Damodar. Damodar, the deity carved by Srila Rup Goswami, was playing his flute. And Jeev Goswami could not believe his eyes. How could a deity play the flute? But Damodar was playing his flute and he was playing it in such a way that Jeev Goswami's eyes were full of water and he almost fainted on the spot. So that deity today is in Jaipur. In Jaipur, there is Shri Radha Damodar Mandir, because at one point of time, Vrindavan was attacked by people of another religion who did not believe in temple worship. And so when these people attacked Vrindavan, then the main deities from Vrindavan, Shri Radha Govindji, Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Radha Damodar, they were all shifted out of Vrindavan and they were taken to Jaipur. So Radha Govindji today is in Jaipur, Radha Madan Mohan is in Karoli, which is near Jaipur, Shri Radha Damodar is in Jaipur, Shri Radha Gopinath is in Jaipur. These are all deities that were worshipped in Vrindavan. So Srila Jeev Goswami, finally, by the mercy of Srila Rup Goswami, he had the fortune of hearing the flute being personally played by Shri Radha Damodar. So this is the life of Srila Jeev Goswami. And after Srila Rup Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, they all passed away from this world. Then Srila Jeev Goswami was the Acharya, was the leader of all the Vaishnavas in our Sampradaya. So first it was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it was Sri Nityanand Prabhu, then it was the consort of Sri Nityanand Prabhu, Sri Janava Devi. After Sri Janava Devi was Srila Rup Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, and after that it was Srila Jeev Goswami. And at one point of time, he was requested that there is a lot of books by Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Srinivas Acharya. All these books, not Srinivas Acharya, all these books are all there in Vrindavan. And Srila Jeev Goswami had made a library of all these books in Radha Damodar Mandir in Vrindavan. But there was a request made that actually please send these books to Bengal and Orissa because we want to preach here. And Srila Jeev Goswami, he sent 3 of his disciples, Shyamanand Pandit, Narottam Das Thakur, and Srinivas Acharya. These 3 disciples, who were Shiksha disciples of Srila Jeev Goswami, they were sent with so many books laden on an ox cart, Bail Gadi pe, in very beautiful boxes. Srila Jeev Goswami put all the books written by Rup Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. The idea was these books will go to Bengal and Orissa and they will be copied. Because in Vrindavan at that time, it was just a forest. There were only a few Babajis, few sadhus staying. It was not a village like before. So there was hardly anybody who would do all that in Vrindavan. So these books were supposed to go to Bengal and Orissa, and then they will be copied, and the original books will again come back to Vrindavan in the library of Srila Jeev Goswami. So actually, the book distribution that we are doing in December month, that books are being distributed to people. The first book distribution party was also done by Srila Jeev Goswami. And those books, they came to Bengal and Orissa, and Shyamanand Pandit became a big preacher in Orissa, and Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur, they became big preachers in Bengal. And that's how throughout Bengal and Orissa today we have these Gaudiya Vaishnavas who are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So all that credit, in one sense, it goes to Srila Jeev Goswami, who sent all those books and who spread all that culture in Bengal and Orissa. So in this way, Srila Jeev Goswami, is influenced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu right in his childhood days when Rupa and Sanatan for the first time they surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was taken on a personal tour by Sri Nityananda Prabhu to all the different places in Navadvip. He studied under Madhusudan Vachaspati in Varanasi, and then he surrendered to Rupa and Sanatan, and he served them very menially like a small servant. And then one time his humility was tested by Srila Rupa Goswami when he was thrown outside Vrindavan. But he successfully passed all those tests. And because of that, Srila Rupa Goswami was so happy with him. He gifted him Shri Radha Damodar. And that Radha Damodar, the deity, actually played his flute to please his servant, Srila Jeev Goswami. And after receiving so much mercy from his Guru Rupa Goswami and from Radha Damodar, then he became leader of all the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan. And in that position, he started the first book distribution party. And because of Srila Jeev Goswami's contribution, the whole states of Bengal and Orissa are more or less Vaishnavas. Very rarely you will come across an Orissa person who is not a devotee. Very rarely you will come across a Bengali person who is not a devotee. So all that credit goes to Srila Jeev Goswami. Of course, in the beginning, I mentioned how he is such a big scholar, 4 lakh original shlokas. So it is said, walnut समझते हैं walnut मतलब अखरोट बोलते हैं अखरोट अखरोट को अगर देखेंगे तो इतना सा रहता है अखरोट. So it is said, just like you turn around a walnut, you turn around an akrod, and you can see that entire akrod. Similarly, Srila Jeev Goswami knew the entire Srimad Bhagavatam and all the shlokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam like a walnut in his hand. हमारे हाथ में अगर अखरोट देंगे तो पूरा मालूम है ना हमको. वैसे श्रील जीव गोस्वामी को 18,000 श्लोक बाय हार्ट थे भागवतम के. And you ask him any question from the Bhagavatam, he will quote, in this shloka, Jad Bharat says like this, in this shloka, Prahlad Maharaj says like this, in this shloka he says like this, in this shloka he says like that. 18,000 shlokas by heart, and not just by heart like a parrot. He knew all the references. What is the main point spoken in this shloka? What is a similar verse in another section of the Srimad Bhagavatam? So such a big scholar, such a huge scholar, but always he remained humble. And that's why in the Gita, Krishna is saying, Vidya Vinaya Sampanna. Real scholarship is not about knowing, real scholarship is about what is your character, what is your behavior. So even if we may not be great scholars, but if our behavior is proper, then in the eyes of Krishna, we have essential knowledge. जो ज्ञान पता होना चाहिए वो इसको पता है. कैसे मालूम आपको? इसका बिहेवियर देखिए कैसा है. बिहेवियर अच्छा है, और क्योंकि बिहेवियर अच्छा है, नम्रता है, तो ये अपने गुरु के सामने हमेशा नम्र रहेगा, और ये अपने गुरु के सामने हमेशा नम्र रहेगा, तो गुरु के आशीर्वाद से इसको आगे का भी ज्ञान मिलते रहेगा. So he may not be a complete scholar, but the symptoms of scholarship, as exemplified by Srila Jiva Goswami, as exemplified by Chanakya Pandit, are there in him. And that's why very soon he will also become a scholar. Just like somebody gives you a check, and on the check is written 15th of January, 2 lakh rupees. So you don't tear off that check. Why? Because if you go to the shop, you cannot purchase anything with that check. आप लेके जाओ नीचे दुकान में और बोले देखो 2 लाख का चेक है, कुछ देंगे सामान? बोले नहीं, मेरे को तो पैसा चाहिए, मुझे तो कैश चाहिए. Don't become frustrated and don't tear off that check, because that check is equal to 2 lakh rupees on 15th of January. आज क्या तारीख है? आज इस तारीख से लेके बहुत जल्दी कुछ ही दिनों में वो चेक का वैल्यू होने वाला है 2 lakh rupees. Don't see it as ordinary paper. Similarly, when the Guru's grace comes on the disciple, then the Guru says, you are a nice devotee. And as soon as the Guru says you are a nice devotee, actually you're not a nice devotee, but he has given us a post-dated check. Very soon, in a few months, in a few years, we'll actually become a good devotee. Why? Because the value of the check is not dependent on the amount that you write on the check. The value of the check is dependent on the signature of the person who has written on the check. आप 2 करोड़ लिख दो साहब वो चेक के ऊपर, लेकिन जो चेक के ऊपर सिग्नेचर ही नहीं है, वो चेक का क्या वैल्यू है? So yes, you may write 2 lakhs, you may write 2 crores, you may write 200 crores, but is the signature valid? So who is signing on the check is more important than what is the amount that is written on the check. If the signature is wrong, you will not even get 1 rupee. And if the signature is correct, then you will get unlimited amount of money. Similarly, when Krishna or his pure representative signs on the check, he is a good devotee. And we may look at him and say, ये कौन सा devotee है? इसको क्या आता है? इसको कुछ भी नहीं आता है. But he has pleased Krishna. He has pleased the representative of Krishna, and because he has pleased the representative of Krishna has signed on the check. And because he has signed on the check, very soon this person will become a good devotee. So this is all we can learn from Srila Jiva Goswami. Today is his disappearance day. We can all pray to Srila Jiva Goswami that let us become the greatest scholar on the planet. Let us become so intelligent that we can destroy any atheism. Anybody who says there is no God, we should be able to defeat him in debate. But we don't fight debates and we don't do all that just to prove our superiority. But we fight in debates to make sure that that devotee or that person gives up his atheism, gives up his rebellion against God, and he actually begins his service to God, begins his service to Krishna. With this attitude, let us engage in many debates. Let us fight many arguments and establish the supremacy of Lord Krishna. That will be a very nice way to use our intelligence. So we can all pray to Srila Jiva Goswami today. Please make us very intelligent. Please make us very humble also. And please make us very submissive also. In this way, one day we will also be able to hear the flute of Shri Shri Radha Damodar. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. If somebody has any questions, then we can take 1 or 2 questions. Yes, Siddharth.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the lecture, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question was that usually it has been observed that when we are doing austerity, especially in our spiritual path, so that austerity should give us humility. But what happens is at times we get that ego that we are superior to other people who are struggling to do that same austerity. So how to understand that, Prabhuji? Because austerity itself makes us humble. Because for that you need to have a lot of discipline and humility. So could you please throw some light on it, please? Hare Krishna.
What is the purpose of any activity that we do will determine the result of that activity. If you want to become a doctor, to become a rich person, then that is what we will become. We may not be able to fight diseases properly. But if we want to become a doctor, that I want to really make sick people healthy. जो बीमार नहीं है, जो बीमार है, उसको मैं ठीक करना चाहता हूँ. जो चल नहीं सकता है, उसको मैं चलाना चाहता हूँ. जो देख नहीं सकता है, उसको मैं दृष्टि देना चाहता हूँ. What is the purpose of your becoming a doctor? So depending on the purpose, we will arrange our life accordingly. And the way we arrange our life, that is how we will get the result accordingly. Similarly, what is the purpose of austerity? Is the purpose of austerity in the beginning only that now I will do something more than others, something that nobody else can do, just see how I do it nicely. If this is the purpose of the austerity, then that is how we will do austerity. Our austerity will be to show to others, देखो मैं तुमसे बड़ा. But the purpose of austerity is actually to slowly get free from the bodily conception of life. खाना पीना बोलना हंसना ये तो हम बाकी दिन करते ही हैं. एकादशी के दिन अगर थोड़ा पेट को कम ध्यान दे, एकादशी के दिन अगर हम बाकी हमारे जो भी बॉडीली एक्टिविटीज है उनको थोड़ा कम ध्यान दे, that is the purpose. The purpose is to loosen the grip of material nature on the soul a little bit. Material nature has a tight grip on the soul through the body and the mind. But on Ekadashi day, we can make that grip a little loose by engaging more in sadhana and giving less priority to our bodily needs. But when we are doing austerity in a group, and the purpose of the austerity is not to become purified, the purpose of austerity is not to please Krishna with our extra chanting, with our extra reading, with our extra preaching, with our extra singing of bhajans, but the purpose of austerity when it becomes to outdo others. तुमसे मैं कैसे बड़ा, मेरे जो शूज है वो तुम्हारे शूज से ज्यादा महंगे हैं. तुमसे मैं कैसे बड़ा कि मेरा जो पेन है वो तुम्हारे पेन से ज्यादा महंगा है. तुमसे मैं कैसे बड़ा कि तुम्हारे कपड़े सिंपल कपड़े हैं, मेरे महंगे कपड़े हैं. दिस इज हाउ वी हैव डिफाइंड हु इज ग्रेट. In modern world, the greatness of a person is not based on his intelligence, is not based on his character. It is based on the things one possesses. It is so superficial, it is so external. Similarly, when we come to devotional service, जब हम भक्ति मार्ग में आते हैं, इसी समाज में से आए हैं. None of us were born in an ashram. None of us were exposed to genuine spirituality from our childhood days. So हमने क्या सीखा? कौन बड़ा? जिसके जूते महंगे हैं वो बड़ा, जो गॉगल्स रेबैन के पहनता है वो बड़ा, जिसका फोन 40,000 रुपए का फोन है वो बड़ा. So similarly, when such people they come to devotional service, they carry the same conceptions and they say, कौन बड़ा? जो सबसे ज्यादा तपस्या करता है वो बड़ा. जो सबसे ज्यादा तपस्या करता है वो सबसे बड़ा नहीं है. सबसे ज्यादा तपस्या कौन करता है मालूम है? The person who is the most diseased takes the most medicine. जिसको 99 बुखार है वो छोटी सी एक गोली खाता है, और जिसको 104 बुखार है वो कितनी गोलियां खाता है? He has many medicines. He has to take many pills. So when your disease is small, your medicine is small. When your disease is big, your medicine is big. Similarly, who needs to do greater tapasya? Somebody who's deeply in the bodily platform. The person who is affected by the bodily material disease the highest, he needs the highest medicine, and that's why he should do biggest tapasya. So if you look at yourself that you are doing great tapasya, you are doing Nirjala Ekadashi, and you are not taking grains, and you are not doing this, and you are not doing that, and that's why you are a great tapasvi, then you should ask yourself, ज्यादा मेडिसिन कौन लेता है? जिसका बुखार ज्यादा है कि जिसका बुखार कम है? And then you will understand, ज्यादा तपस्या कौन करेगा? जो ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स में फंसा हुआ है. ज्यादा मेडिसिन कौन लेगा? जिसको ज्यादा रोग हुआ है. If you look at yourself that I need more tapasya because I'm more on the bodily platform, I need to do more chanting because I'm totally covered by lust, I'm totally covered by pride, I'm totally covered by anger. If you really understand that the more a person is sick, the more he needs stronger medicine. Similarly, by the same logic, why am I doing more tapasya? Not to show to others I'm great, but because my disease is much deeper and much stronger than others' disease. So if we have this clear conception at the beginning of doing tapasya, before we begin to do tapasya, we should ask this question, why am I doing tapasya? To show to people how great I am, or to tell people and to confirm the fact that actually my disease is much deeper, my disease is much more stronger, and my disease won't go so easily, so I have to take more medicine. We have to define why we do what we do before we do. Why do I want to become a doctor should be fixed before you become a doctor, not in the course of becoming a doctor. Where you want to go in a journey is decided before the journey starts. After sitting in any train, you go to the other station and sit in the train and say, चलो अभी कहाँ जाते हैं? ऐसा नहीं होता है. पहले तय करना पड़ता है कि कहाँ जाना है, उसके बाद में ट्रेन में बैठना पड़ता है. Similarly, why am I becoming a doctor should be fixed before you start becoming a doctor. And similarly, why am I doing tapasya should be fixed before you do tapasya. In case you sit in a train and you have not yet decided where I want to go, then there will be a lot of problems. Similarly, if you have started doing some tapasya and you did not decide why I'm doing that tapasya, mostly the old thoughts will come. कौन बड़ा जिसके जूते बड़े, कौन बड़ा जिसका पेन महंगा, कौन बड़ा जिसके गॉगल्स बड़े. सिमिलरली भक्तों में कौन बड़ा जिसकी तपस्या बड़ी? जी नहीं. भक्तों में कौन बड़ा? जो नम्र है. Somebody who does not become angry for small reasons. Somebody who does not shout every time anything goes wrong. He does not start shouting at everyone. That person is a big devotee. So if you define the purpose of what you do, it could be your profession, it could be your education, or it could be your tapasya in spiritual life. Once you define why you are doing that, then things become easy, and then it is very difficult to get into the wrong conceptions. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, any other question or any other thought that anybody of you wants to share? Okay, it's good to see Prathamesh Mulik. He has not put his video on, but good to see you after a long time. We were missing you in the months in between when we were having a live program. As soon as we went to online program, you are again back with us. Good to see you. Hare Krishna. Hope everything is good at your end. Hope you are healthy and your preparation for your studies is going on nicely. Yes. Okay, so we'll have Kirtan, and after that, then there is prasadam for everyone at the base. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील जी गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। So Pranay Prabhu, is there Mahaprasad for everyone there?
Prasad has been prepared for base member Prasad members.
Oh, so next program, even if we are having online, just in case we are having online, we should have feast for all the devotees like Prathamesh and Ajay, all these devotees who come from the college hostel. We can keep a feast for them next time.
All right.
Most possibly we will have it live in person, but even if we have online, at least on the day of the program, we should have a feast at our base.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you very much. Special thanks to everyone for attending this program, and special thanks to Ras Gopal Prabhu for giving his blessings. He is always smiling by keeping his camera off. Otherwise, we can see his beautiful face, but now he has immediately switched his camera off. Thank you so much, Ras Gopal Prabhu. Thank you all. Hare Krishna. We'll hoping to meet all of you next Wednesday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.